Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to today's event. I'm Jason Gumpert from MSDynamicsWorld.com, and we're here for a really fun session, a chance to get a real fast-paced look at several different solutions that can add a lot of value to your Dynamics GP solution or your client's solutions. We're going to be moving through 5 different solutions in the next hour. It's going to be a lot of information very quickly, and that's the point, to really make this an hour that's worth your while. A bit of housekeeping as we begin here. So we do welcome your questions, and we will save time at the end for them. You can ask questions at any point throughout the session. Look for the Q&A block on the right side of your WebEx screen. If you don't see Q&A opened up as a block, look for a question mark icon in the upper right of WebEx, and that'll enable it for you if need be. Enter those at any time, like I said, and we'll save all of them for the end and get to as many as you have. We have 5 presenters today. I'm just going to bring up a little information about all 5 of them. They'll each introduce themselves and tell you more about their companies, of course. So I won't take any more time to do that right now. As I think I may have mentioned, each presenter is going to have about 10 minutes, and we're going to get started here. So our first presenter is going to be John Solis of Avalara, and without any further delay, I'm going to hand control off to John to begin.
Hey, thank you very much, Jason. Can you see my screen?
I do. I see it in edit mode right now.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, now I see.
Hi, and thanks for inviting me to this webinar. I'm going to talk a little bit about Avalara, which, software tax compliance solution. Avalara was founded in 2004. We actually have a little over 20,000 customers that are actively calculating sales, use, and VAT with us through different, accounting as well as e-commerce websites. We have 600 different connectors that connect into those different websites and Dynamics GP systems in order to calculate taxes. And we're currently calculating about 5 billion transactions per year. That's 5 billion sales tax calculations we're sending back to pay off to the little state and local governments. We're also managing about 25 million exemption certificates, those little magic pieces of paper you get from different customers who don't want you to charge them tax. And as we're calculating, we're also remitting those taxes to different state and local agencies as well as internationally. And we've remitted $18 billion to state and local governments as of last year. Why do companies outsource tax compliance is a question I often get. And I know you got the intro, my name is John Solis at the beginning. A little bit about me, though. I've been doing state and local taxation for a little over 25 years, and I've been focusing in on the tax automation piece here for the past 15. And I typically get, why would you want to outsource tax compliance? And, as much as I love doing it, manual tax management is very time-consuming. Keeping up to date with rates, what have you, that change in the system. And there's actually some statistics out there, believe it or not, they've studied this on specific to transaction taxes. And the question usually asked, is how many, if you're a company, how likely is an auditor to find a mistake in your system? 75 people out there feel that chances are they're making mistakes on their day-to-day generation of taxes and invoices. And at the end of the day, what's the value add for getting the right tax amount on the right line of the tax return? It's really not a value add for a company. It's a non-generating revenue activity. So here at Avalara, we have some tools that we can utilize in order to automate that tax calculation process. And I'm going to be showing you those tools here in a couple of seconds. But Avalara is a cloud tax calculation engine. And at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're actually communicating back and forth between Microsoft Dynamics and our AvaTax system in calculating taxes. We're also managing exemption certificates within Dynamics that you get from your customers so that you can manage those pieces of paper and be able to reproduce them for an audit. And we're also going to help you generate those tax returns. We're not only calculating taxes, but the same system is also going to generate, file, and pay those tax amounts for you. At Avalara, we've actually been a partner with Microsoft since 2004. We actually share about 800 customers together across 10 pre-built integrations, and we've got some listed there. We're certainly on all the latest and greatest, but we certainly have had an integration with Dynamics GP since 2004 through various pre-built integrations, and we also have some ISV integrations through some other third-party partners as well, as I'm listing out there on the slide. Well, now that I've just given you a little bit of background on our company, I'm just going to go ahead and shrink that down. And I'm going to pull up what I'm hoping looks very familiar to everyone, and it's a GP, Microsoft GP instance we have running. And we are, as I mentioned, we're partners with Microsoft, and we've actually been building and maintaining our internal integrations or connectors to our AvaTax system through Microsoft Dynamics GP for many years. Those are actually built and maintained internally here. And I usually like to show how we're built into the system by just pulling up a sales transaction entry screen and just walking into a couple of the screens. And the first thing I like to sort of mention here is if I go in here and I just want to go ahead and pull up a customer ship to address, in order to make sure that we have a good tax calculation, the first thing we need is a good ship to address. So if I go in here, there's an address validation option we built into the system. And what that does is it'll look at the street address, city, state, and zip. It'll postal standardize that address, make sure it's a good address we can ship to, add the zip +4 onto it, but basically make sure it's a good address we can actually ship something to. If I go ahead and close that down, from here, I can actually also just go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and go into the item maintenance screen right here. And this is where I can just pick an item up. And how do I know how to tax that item correctly in our system? We actually can insert our tax codes right here underneath the options screen. We can actually put an Avalara tax code in the system. And that tax code is actually going to let the system know if that item should or should not be taxable based on the state I'm shipping to. Let me just go ahead and pull an item up. And I'm going to put an item here on the screen. And now that I have a completed invoice here, I've got an item and I've got a ship to address, I can actually now just save the order, Control-T, or hit the Calculate Tax option, and you'll notice I automatically calculated taxes on the bottom here. How did I do that? If I go over here to the Customer ID inside of Customer Maintenance, you'll notice inside of the system here, I've got a tax schedule of AvaTax assigned to this customer. Any customer that has that tax schedule assigned to them will look out externally to our system in order to make sure it can pull in a tax rate. The tax rates are not going to be maintained locally inside of our system. They're actually going to be based on the tax schedule. The tax rates are going to be maintained and kept up to date on our system, so you don't have to worry about it. The only other thing I'll mention is if you have a situation where you're trying to figure out if this customer has an exemption certificate or not in the system, you can simply go here to the customer ship to. I can actually go and it says, hey, do I have an exemption certificate? And I can actually go right from here and actually pull up the certificate you've stored in our system, which is located right here. Pull that system, and you can actually view and maintain the certificates in case you got an exemption certificate from the customer and we're exempting them. So we can actually store and maintain those exemption certificates for you. all this information is stored inside of the Avatax system after you've posted these invoices, and we're just going to go ahead and file and pay those returns out to the state and local agencies. And that is what I had planned to show today, Jason. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, John.
I think I hit my 10-minute mark too.
Just about. So let me now take control back from you and hand it to our next presenter, and that is, well, we have on the screen Sarah from MineralTree, but it's actually Mike Goldenberg from MineralTree who's filling in kind of in the last minute here. Mike, welcome.
So thank you very much for having us here today. As I mentioned, my name is Mike Goldenberg. I'm the VP of Sales here at MineralTree, and looking forward to today's webinar. Our slogan here at MineralTree is AP how it should be, and that's really what we're trying to help get people to. Typically what we hear, certainly from our GP customers in particular, is just the challenges around AP in terms of a lot of the manual, tedious steps, and there's just this constant feeling that there should be a better way to do it today, and certainly, that's where we step in. Just very briefly, we've been around since 2010, process, actually that number should be closer to $4 billion in payments a year, over 1,500 customers, and really our, background in our founder's background is in, security. So it's not just about a more efficient way to do your payments and process your invoices, but equally so, a more secure way to track, and certainly in today's day and age and all the challenges and all the fraud that's going on in the world, AP is particularly ripe for that. And so that's at the heart of everything we do, is not just the efficiency that comes from automating, but by centralizing and tracking and digitizing and getting away from all that paper, the security aspect is a huge part of the value. Also, our product is sold both directly through our customers or to our customers, but also we have about 24 banks throughout the U.S. That also private label or white label the solution as well. So again, that speaks to both, the widespread use of the product, but also, again, in order to have a bank resell your product, the hoops you have to jump through are quite extraordinary. When you look at the types of companies that typically are leveraging AP automation, one thing that'll be very consistent you'll see is that it's across all industries. Everyone has AP. The amount they're concerned about it typically is based on a combination of things like how quickly they're growing, because they see that as a growing problem and they don't want to continue to hire. Companies that are consolidating, we see that quite a bit. So for instance, businesses where they're acquiring a lot of facilities, things like that, tend to see a lot of value. Nonprofits who are looking to reallocate time to more important things to get focused back on the mission at hand. Those are some of the companies that really see the most value in this type of solution. But again, it ranges from manufacturing to e-commerce to healthcare, but anything that's growing quickly is going to be an area, and any business where they're really trying to tighten down on costs and really improve efficiency, visibility, control, cash management. That's where you're going to see a lot of the value. As mentioned, or obviously this is focused on GP, and what's common about all the accounting systems we support, because obviously we're focused on GP, but if people over time make changes, things like that, obviously we support other systems. But the key to remember is that what we do very differently is our API level integration to the accounting system, to GP, and that is what is truly unique. Pretty much all of our competitors are using file-based transmissions, so they're essentially going to be downloading files from GP, then formatting them, uploading them into their system, and then they'll kind of follow the process back and forth. And as you can imagine, that's extremely challenging, especially with a solution like GP where you've got the batching and things like that. It just makes it that much more difficult to keep the two systems in alignment. And when you're trying to automate, on the one hand, there's the bells and whistles of all the things you won't have to do anymore, like entering data and chasing approvals and actually executing the payments and things like that. But oftentimes people kind of forget about the basics, which are just ensuring the systems are in alignment. And again, with a solution like GP, that becomes that much more challenging. And that's why we've gone this direction in, connecting directly to it versus, that file-based approach. When you think about, and especially for GP customers, we see this in particular, we no longer live in this paper-based data entry world, and yet AP has really been left behind at this point. For a lot of the people on the line here today, they're probably still frustrated by the amount of paper that is in the process, and the stories we still hear in terms of the things that people have to print up to then use, and the amount of file cabinets and things like that. And for a lot of the other parts of your business and even in people's personal lives, we've obviously moved away from paper, both in terms of the invoices and the paper check payments. But AP has often been kind of that last thing that people think about, because why would you? I mean, we rarely run into someone that says we want to be the industry leader in accounts payable. But the reality is when you start to take a step back and look at your organization and you think about where are we wasting the most time and energy, where we feel like we could make an improvement, for most people today it still is around accounts payable, just based on, again, it just not getting a lot of attention. So when you think about the manual process today, manually keying in and coding all those invoices is a huge time suck. Even if this was the only thing that we did, and just getting those invoices into the system, it'd be a tremendous amount of help for most people. But that's just the first step. And capturing that information at 99.5% accuracy is a huge differentiator for us as well. For a lot of the people in the audience today, I'm sure you've experienced OCR technology and the frustrations that come along with it, in terms of having to train the system and load templates, and even then you're getting 80 to 90% accuracy, so then you've got to go find all the errors. On top of that, ultimately the amount of time you spend making corrections is kind of taking away from what you were saving. So the fact that we're able, out of the box, day one, able to capture invoices at 99.5% accuracy is a huge kind of wow moment for most people, and they can start to see how much easier their lives are going to be. Chasing and tracking approvals, one of the number one things we hear, especially from GP customers, is the challenges. So a lot of people that we talk to and a lot of our customers will say they don't even want to put an invoice into GP until they've got it approved, but in many cases that makes it that much harder for them to track all their outstanding payables. So with a solution like ours, for instance, you're able to have visibility and tracking and start to work on those approvals in our system and make your life a lot easier closing out a month, quarter, whatever it may be, or just have better visibility on a day-to-day basis. But you control when that data is actually going into GP, as oftentimes it can be challenging to get it out. But instead of tracking things by email and an Excel sheet and walking things around the office, now it's all centralized, it's in one place, you've got that consistency moving forward, and certainly a more scalable process if you're growing. Then you think of that back and forth process it usually takes to get out a payment run, and the challenges that come along with that, the backup documentation, things that need to be printed. Sometimes checks are printed, but then you determine you don't want to send the payment yet, or something needs to be changed, and there's just a lot of that painful back and forth that goes along, on top of the fact that it requires oftentimes the payment authorizer, that check signer or check signers, to actually be present to sign or to approve a payment to go out, and that can create problems and delays, and you've got vendors chasing you down and for payment. So that whole process becomes infinitely easier, infinitely simplified. It's easy to schedule payments and then reject payments, whatever it may be, without having to then reverse them and things like that. So just making your life much easier on that front. And then, of course, actually executing all the payments. For most people, they have one process for actually sending out their checks. and they've got another process for their ACH. Maybe they're entering it into their online banking portal, or maybe they're actually uploading a file, but either way, that requires formatting. And that's one process. And then maybe they're trying to get some spend on the credit cards, but obviously there's a lot of challenges there. They're probably at best, getting some cards on file, but certainly not maximizing the rebate potential of moving more spend towards cards. But again, to track all those different payment types and then get all that information back into the system is just extremely time consuming. So what we do is we save you 60% of the time that it takes. And the way that we do it is by automating from front to back and sitting right between your accounting system and bank. So we'll automatically capture those invoices for you, then route them automatically for approval and code them. Then we will move them towards payment authorization where you can have all your limits and things in place. And then we'll actually send all those different payments for you and sync all that data right back to your accounting system, really taking out, again, 60% of the hardest, tedious parts of the process. And here are just some of the things that make MineralTree unique in particular, but a lot of it just has to do with the ease of use, the direct connection, both accounting system and bank. So I know I'm running short on time. I appreciate
we are at time here.
Happy to answer questions.
And we will have contact information and a chance to ask questions at the end. Thank you, Mike. Our next presenter is going to be Lindsay Hampson of eBridge Connections. And Lindsay, I am going to move control over to you now.
Great. Thanks for having me. And hi, everyone on the line. I've been staring at the screen since we started the webinar. It looks delicious. I'm hungry. But the story that I'm about to tell, I have about 10 minutes, is about a customer that uses GP, and they sell barbecues. They sell those green eggs. They sell barbecues. They sell barbecue supplies. They'll help you with a new grill if you just need a new grill. But before I get into the story, I'm going to introduce myself. So my name is Lindsay Hampson. I'm the marketing manager and customer accounts over at eBridge Connections. We have been around for 25 years, just as long as Avalara, I'd say, and there are about 65 of us here, all in one office, just outside of Toronto. We have about 650 customers now, and they all trust us with that lifeblood of their business, which is sales orders. Getting that product to the customer at the right time. So you can think of eBridge as sort of the retail buddy of those working with GP. So we also do EDI integration, CRM integration, eCommerce integration, and others. I'll get into it in a few minutes. So on to the grill. Let me get back to the story. So my brother-in-law, he works at a sort of boutique barbecue place just outside of Toronto, and he would kill me if he saw me talking about Lowe's. But, somebody wanted a barbecue, and they were having friends over on the weekend, and maybe they went to Lowe's to pick up the latest char griller barbecue, or maybe they decided to go on to Walmart Marketplace, or maybe Walmart's website, or into a store to pick up the same brand char griller, or maybe they decided to go to chargriller.com and look at the inventory that they have on their own site. So it doesn't really matter how the buyer wants to buy. That company selling needs to have their product in the right place. So that's not likely the people on the phone. It's likely not your job to get in front of customers. It's likely your job to deal with all the data from all of the orders, from all of the channels that need to make their way back to GP. So that's where eBridge comes in. So let's pretend that order was made, and Char Griller is actually a customer of eBridge Connections. They sell those grills we've been talking about, and their office is it's in the city that I took a picture of here in GA. And they use Microsoft Dynamics GP. They have a Shopify store. They also sell in-store at a bunch of trading partners, and they definitely sell on Walmart as well. So wherever this customer decided to buy from, they clicked the buy button or took it to the checkout or whatever. But the big problem is data. It's how to get that data from where they bought it back into headquarters. And that's where we come in. So eBridge Connections, we help customers flow data back and forth. That data could be a sales order, it could be shipping information, it could be tracking data, it could be an inventory adjustment. So say there's only so many barbecues in the warehouse, but an order was made on Walmart.com, and that needs to be reflected on their Shopify store. We could talk about customer data, adding a new customer into GP, for example, invoices, or even EDI documents like an 850 and 851. Those living in the world of trading and EDI know those numbers really well. So the reason I'm here with you is to talk about how we do this. I'm going to go to the next slide. So again, think of eBridge as the system integrator for retail. So on one side, on the left side, all of the channels are the places that your customers need to be. So that's eCommerce, EDI, and it's also the systems that you want to have information about your customers in. And all of that information needs to get back to Microsoft Dynamics GP. Just to let you know, over the last couple of years, we took all of our knowledge over the 25 years, and we created an integration platform, brand new, purpose-built, and we put it on the Microsoft Azure cloud. So on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or the months leading up to Christmas, we are ready to handle the transaction volume that our customers really depend on. All right, moving on. We are a certified partner. I think everybody that's speaking to you today is certified. Microsoft is such a great partner of ours. We appreciate them coming down to our building when we have questions or problems, or we're talking about what else we want to do with Microsoft. We're also listed on the Microsoft App Source. We have an app called Integrate eCommerce, CRM, EDI, and more. And then we're also certified in all of those connectors or pre-built connectors I've been talking about. So Shopify, potentially people are selling on Amazon or eBay. Maybe they have a Magento store. We're also certified and a good partner of Salesforce or Microsoft CRM. And we've sold to, I would say, over 600 trading partners or in-store brick-and-mortar retailers over the last few years. So Costco, Walmart, Target, you can think about all those big box stores. Our customers are certainly putting their products in those stores as well. And then finally, we do Microsoft Dynamics really well, and we do a few other ERPs as well. And then finally, we're really proud of our customers. We have about 600, as I mentioned. Char Griller is one that uses GP, but we have a few other customers up there that also use Dynamics products as their ERP. So eBridge, let's talk a little bit about what that means. So eBridge is an integration platform as a service. People call it an iPaaS, and it's hosted on Microsoft Azure. And the hope is our customers don't actually need to go into it once everything is set up. So our customers can simply log in if they want to, and they can go into our portal, and they can see all of the connectors that they have with eBridge. So in this case, our customer here has the Dynamics 365 CRM, and they have a bunch of different channels they sell on. So they're selling on Amazon, BigCommerce, Woo. The great thing about eBridge is you can add these connections or channels as you go, and you can delete them if you want. Some folks might have 70 trading partners. So Costco, Home Depot, all of that information will be here, and if you click on one of the squares, for this example, I'm clicking in to see exactly what I'm integrating between Shopify and Microsoft Dynamics. In this case, I'm automating every time a new order comes from Shopify back into GP. And I'm adjusting inventory levels near real time from Dynamics back into Shopify. And same with updating product catalog. As I create new products, new barbecues for the summertime, that information again can flow seamlessly between Shopify, but all those other channels on the last page I showed you as well. And then finally, this is the document screen or the transaction screen. So again, our customers don't actually live in eBridge all the time. They don't have to have it open. But if they had a question about a particular order, EDI or eCommerce, or a particular customer that was set up in Salesforce, for example, they can come in here and see the status of that integration. So in this case, one order went through and there was one problem order, and you can click in and find out all the information you need to find out what happened to that order, and then you can reprocess it. And the last thing is that we have sort of an unlimited user situation here with eBridge. So if your company becomes an eBridge customer, you can set up as many users as you want, or seats we call them. So if your warehouse, the ones that are actually packing those orders, would like their own view of the important documents they need to print out and ship out today, they can have their own view. And potentially the folks on the phone that are in IT or maybe in finance, you might have a particular column or products of interest or maybe partners that you trade with that you want to see every day on your screen. And if an order has a problem, we can send you a text. So we have a sort of text-enabled messages through eBridge too. So you don't need to be in here every day. We can let you know if something happens that you need to go in and check for. So that's a really quick product tour. We're always so happy to demo any situation that you might have at your company. So maybe you're selling on eBay. Maybe you've always sold in-store and you're just thinking about also selling online. We're happy to help you, happy to show you what we've done before for customers like you. And so I'll leave it there. I want to say thanks. I hope you're going to have a barbecue soon this weekend. And check out Char Griller, our customer. And if you have a few minutes, you can go to our website. And at the very top of ebridgeconnections.com, there's a Start Planning button. It's just a free tool. You can check it out. You can see what type of integrations and particularly what workflows we've done in the past to help our customers. And that's it. I'll leave it there. Thanks so much again for having me.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. And I'm now going to introduce Robert Roi of HighJump. Robert, I'm giving you control here.
All right, great. Thank
momentarily.
You. Yeah.
All right, and we do see your screen.
All right, great. Well, thank you for that. Again, my name is Robert Roi. I am with HighJump. HighJump is a leading provider of supply chain solutions. We really have offerings in a variety of areas to help automate companies' supply chain operations. We have a couple of different warehouse management solutions, some transportation management and trucking and logistics products, direct store delivery solutions, and business intelligence and analytics applications. Today we're going to focus on just one area of that, one area of our WMS solutions for a product that we call Collect for GP. Collect for GP is a very unique product. In fact, it is the only product available from any source that both shares the Dynamics GP database and actually posts transactions live. So we, for the most part, any area of operation from receiving, picking, stock counts, cycle counts, transactions that you could typically do within Dynamics GP itself, we are extending those functions out to a rugged RF handheld level. So on the right half of the screen here, you'll see this Collect Emulator. This Collect Emulator is kind of the warehouse worker's view of the world. It's what's running on a durable RF device. There are a variety of different types of durable devices that we could run on, certainly. Anything from Honeywell or Zebra or a variety of different types of barcode scanners that are going to operate within a distribution or manufacturing environment. So with this Collect Emulator, our software running on that rugged RF device, operators are able to wirelessly move around the facility and perform a variety of inventory-related transactions. We're going to give you just a very light view of that today. We've already logged in on our handheld, so first of all, every operator logs in with their own unique credentials. And we track and trace all activities, so at some point if you want to see who's the most efficient picker, who's the most efficient receiver, by lines, by units, etc., all of that is possible. To give you just a quick feel of how everything works, we're going to go into the receiving menu on the RF device, and we're going to go into PO receiving. Here we have a list of open purchase orders that are available and able to be received down at the receiving dock in your warehouse environment. This list, of course, could be filtered and sorted by anything that's relevant to it, so anything off the header, body, or footer of your purchase order could be used to control what drops to the RF device and what order or sequence it appears in. So most commonly, you might group by vendor or estimated receipt date or something of that nature. Certainly, if your product arrived with a manifest or a packing slip that was barcoded, you certainly could go ahead and scan that, which I'm going to simulate right now, and call up this PO 2078. At a glance, I can see it's a PO from our vendor Convex coming into our LA distribution center. I can see that there are 6 different items that I'm expecting. The highlighted field here is on the item number, showing one of 6 down at the bottom. I could scroll through and see each and every item that should be coming in, but I certainly don't need to do that. If my product arrives with any sort of identifiable barcode label on it, doesn't matter whether it's a vendor barcode, manufacturer's barcode, UPC barcode, etc. You can simply go ahead and scan the item and we'll take you directly to it. You can see I bounced right to item 17,000, of which we've ordered 250. Maybe I have a pallet worth of 100, and I'm going to go ahead and scan that in. If I have something that comes in that isn't label printed, like the 17,009, I do have full label printing capabilities that can be tripped right from my RF device. So I could say I'm checking in 30, and I could print 1 label with a quantity of 30, or maybe 3 labels with a quantity of 10 because I want to label each case pack. The moment I do that, I can continue to scan all of those items as they're coming in. Certainly anything lot or serial tracked. Notice does ask me for that valid lot or serial number. So this item now is asking me for the serial number of everything I'm checking in, and I'm printing a label for that if that was needed as well. As I hit my checkbox here, it's going to warn me that I'm doing a partial receipt, and I'm going to go ahead and complete that receipt record in Dynamics GP itself and pull the native posting trigger. So that RCT 1194 has not only been written back to Dynamics GP, but it's been posted, immediately updating all of my on-hand and available inventory levels in real time. So really our role is to take those native tasks that you can do around inventory or manufacturing tasks, streamline them, add barcoding and automation to the back end, replacing mass amounts of manual data entry and keeping GP's inventory real-time and accurate, while eliminating a lot of the pain of going back to each screen in GP, calling up the transaction manually, and so on and so forth. In this case, we actually wrote your receiving transaction entry screen in its entirety and clicked your post button here, eliminating all of the need to interact with this screen. That gives you just a flavor for one area of the transaction. This is a pretty rich application, really automates all major areas. Most commonly after you received product, you might do things like a guided put away to a bin level of detail, and we can help you with the efficiency in that. Probably the other greatest area that people are looking for help with is accurate and timely order picking, getting your customer orders out the door fast and efficiently. You can see we can go into order picking, and we can view orders live from Dynamics GP, however they came in there, whether it was pulled in via EDI or manually entered or any other method to get that sales order information directly into Dynamics GP. Once it's there, it's visible and available to the RF device, and we can pull that up, doing paperless picking, optimizing the pick path, so you can see there are 6 different items that are now sequenced by bin location, so that I'm moving up and down my rows of inventory efficiently, ensuring that I'm grabbing these in a proper path. Of course, any FIFO or FIFO enforced picking methodologies could be applied, and we validate everything that you're doing in real time. So if you ever accidentally try to grab the wrong product or maybe the wrong quantity, the handheld would immediately notify you if you're doing something wrong, as I'm scanning a serial number for an invalid item at this moment. All of this data updates real time back to your sales order in Dynamics GP. And just for time's sake, I'm going to mark this one as partially picked. So customer service would have access to seeing at a glance that this customer order has been partially picked but not fully picked and gotten out the door. To kind of wrap up just a few other areas, certainly any site-to-site transfers or bin-to-bin transfers could be automated. Stock counts, cycle counts, label printing, inventory level inquiries, and also a whole slew of manufacturing automation transactions. If you not only distribute your item but also make it yourself, we have a deep integration to all major areas of GP manufacturing, Vicinity manufacturing, and Horizons manufacturing packages within the Dynamics GP environment. Everything from raw material picking to finished good receipts labor, machine time in between, and those types of relevant tasks. We do have over 400 Dynamics GP customers all running this solution over the past 17 years. And so we've been working with the Dynamics GP product for a long time and helping many customers in their areas of distribution and manufacturing streamline those operations. We'd be happy to take some time to give you a much more thorough peek into our solution, Collect for GP from HighJump. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, Robert. And I'm now going to pass control over to Roi Calculator of DocStar. Roi, you should be getting control, and there's your
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jason. So, as Jason mentioned, my name is Roi Calculator. I'm the Director of Product Management with DocStar. And first, let me say it's a pleasure to be here today with my colleagues, Jason, and all of you. And thank you for your time today. We recognize your time is valuable, and you came to hear and see some valuable things. So hopefully we can show you some of that in addition to what my colleagues have done before me. First off, DocStar, as an ECM provider, helps pave the way for digital transformation. And as you can see, we are about empowering growth with process automation for Dynamics GP and so much more along the digital transformation journey. We seek to empower our customers, not simply to provide them with our tools and solutions, but to also give them the ability to use those tools and adapt those tools as they need to over the course of their evolution and path down the digital transformation journey. And what you'll see in some of what we have to offer is not only the flexibility to provide you powerful solutions, but also the flexibility to give you the tools to make them your own and adapt them over time as you need to for yourselves. Now, a little bit about who DocStar is. We're a leading enterprise content management and process automation software company founded in 1996. So like some of my colleagues on the call, we've been around quite a long time. With over 2,000 customers and users in many industries and countries worldwide, we've had a broad range of experience and, as you might imagine, a number of challenges that we've helped our customers overcome. We have a very flexible deployment model in that you can purchase our licenses for on-premises deployment, or use our hosting in the cloud, or even provide your own application hosting using our on-premises licensing in your provider of choice. It is built from the ground up today as a rewrite. Obviously, being around as long as we have, we've gone through several architectural updates. Our most complete rewrite, happening only a few years ago in about 2013, brought us the architecture of a true multi-tenant cloud web-based solution. And you'll see that in a few moments. But what that means is it's a very contemporary and powerful solution based on latest technologies. And we are a comprehensive enterprise content management platform and process automation solution provider. And what we mean by that is content management in relation to documents and content within your organization that needs a central repository, security, audit trails, your compliance concerns are all addressed within the one enterprise content management solution, as well as being able to provide you AP automation solutions, sales order automation solutions, human resources automation, and others that your organization may need to take and streamline those paper-based processes, and as you might imagine, even email-based processes where you're receiving emails with content and then printing that out to handle it. DocStar helps global enterprises achieve a rapid ROI in a reduction of operational costs by providing productivity solutions that help take a lot of the manual labor out of processing documentation, reviewing documentation, providing and distributing documentation, and integrating with other systems in your environment that need the information that comes from that documentation. As you can see, we've worked with a number of leading organizations out there across many different industries, and we have a breadth of experience in providing these solutions that is rare in our industry. As an example of just one customer success, working with Gillette Pepsi, a very large distributor of Pepsi products, they were able to achieve out of the box within a limited amount of time a very high ROI, reducing AP processing times dramatically and providing insights and visibility to all of their organization on all documentation, not just the AP invoice, but all related documentation in the purchase to pay process. So they've out of the box seen a number of benefits, and then beyond that have extended that solution even since to provide even more benefits to their organization. Now, business process automation benefits that you can achieve, especially with Dynamics GP, are direct two-way API integration, which means rather than file handoffs, as was mentioned earlier by our friends at MineralTree, which many industry providers will do, and that's kind of what we call a fire and forget kind of integration, where you provide something and hope that the other side gets it. Whereas with direct two-way API integrations, we are not only providing information, but we're ensuring that that information was received, as well as being able to access that information from Dynamics GP that we may need in order to process AP invoices or sales orders or other documentation. And streamlining the AP invoice and sales order processing workflows means increases in productivity, increases in accuracy because of automated validation routines, timeliness for payment, timeliness for receipt and delivery of sales orders, and obviously greater visibility and control, where once everything is in your electronic process, your dashboards give you visibility to everything that's going on with that documentation and those processes. And then a key factor and a differentiator for DocStar in this space is generally the ability to address any document-driven process that exists in your organization today, whether it's integrated with GP or not, or even GP and multiple other systems. For example, if you have an organization that's generating purchase orders in a different system than GP, but then wanting to tie that with GP, we can facilitate that multiple connection and interaction by providing information to both systems and extracting information from both systems. So we have the ability to interact with multiple systems simultaneously. And that's across multiple different applications. So just a quick couple of statistics to support some of what we heard earlier in the call in terms of what benefits can we see in AP processing as one example of process automation. Most organizations don't actually even understand the impact of paper processes in their organization. As an example, this pie chart indicates that 47% of people don't even measure or really know what their processing costs are to process an invoice. And those that do know indicate that they are somewhere between $1 and $15. But when you look deeper into those numbers, you actually find a little bit of a different story, because what you start to see is more people are on the $10 or higher. And when we see the average cost here indicated as $10, and this information is provided courtesy of PayStream Advisors, the average cost is actually closer to $10, which means many people are above that, as well as some below. So you see that when you're not actually in a digital process. And what we mean by digital process is transforming what you do from paper-based or email to paper to digital-based into a fully electronic process. When you're actually an innovator and you're really pushing the outer edges of innovation in your organization, you can realize tremendous benefit. And as we see here, pretty much a 75% reduction in cost for processing an invoice. Multiply that out over how many invoices you process, and you can obviously see the benefits. Now, in streamlining invoice processing, here's a sample workflow that you would normally go through in terms of capturing documentation, processing it through OCR, and then putting it into a rules-based workflow, which processes it all the way through efficiently. You will wind up being shown just those things that need your attention. By automated three-way matching routines, you'll see those things that are highlighted and in red and bold, which need your attention to be corrected, such as a unit cost variance or an extended cost variance, quantity variance, and those things that have no issues will pass all the way through the system and instantly create invoice transactions within GP, both in the create, enter, match, as well as the payables transactions. Also, direct integration with GP allows retrieve buttons to allow you to click a retrieve button in GP and instantly retrieve those documents within DocStar. You can also have an electronic purchase to pay process right from the start by using the eForms module so that you can actually not have to start with paper. And then lastly, the reporting tools give you the ability to report on your system quickly and easily. Okay, and one more view, our graphical workflow design tool, which gives you the ability to build and maintain your own workflows. So with that, Jason, I think I'll hand this back to you because I believe we're out of time. But thank you.
All right, thank you, Ray. And thank you to all the presenters. Great job. I know it's a real challenge to only take 10 minutes for some of these really deep topics and lots of great detail. I want to open it up to questions now. We have a few that have already come in, and we'll get to as many as we have time for here. If you haven't entered yours, look for the Q&A block just to the right of the main presentation area, and we'll start diving into them. Ray, first question actually goes to you. I'm a small company. Does AP automation make sense?
Actually, that's a great question because AP automation actually means different things to different organizations. So the message earlier about digital transformation, regardless of the size organization you are, you can benefit by beginning your journey into digital transformation. And AP automation is a really good place to start. And you can start with simple automation, which doesn't involve complex integration or anything elaborate, all the way up through fully automated systems. So yeah, even small companies can benefit.
All right, great. This is a question for John and for Avalara. We're not sure where we should be collecting taxes. What should we do?
Hi, and this is John. Can you hear me?
We can.
Sure. If you're not sure where you should be collecting taxes, there's services out there called the Nexus Study, where it's basically a service we offer where we'll ask you a series of questions, and based on how you're doing business in different states, we can tell you if you should or should not have what we call Nexus in those states, and if you need to register or not. And it's certainly an offering that we can provide, and we also have a number of accounting partners that can also help provide it as well.
Okay, great. Let's see here. So we have a question for MineralTree asking, do you have multiple levels of approval for invoices and payments?
Yeah, so great question. We definitely have multiple levels for both invoices and payment authorization. So on the invoice side, you can set it up a million different ways in terms of you can have it so you need two people to approve. You can have it so either one person or another can approve. You can do it by dollar amount. There's a lot of flexibility on that side. And then on the payment side, it's often more focused on obviously the limits. And oftentimes the question we get around that is around dual approvals, certainly for checks, and dual signatures on checks, which we can fully support as well.
All right, thank you. And we have a question, I believe, for Lindsay here. It's asking, it says, I have trouble selling these types of integration solutions up the chain at my organization. How do you recommend putting together the cost savings for the automation?
Thanks for the question. This probably applies to everybody here on the line too, but for integration, I think do it the old-fashioned way. Open up an Excel spreadsheet and write down all of the time that it takes your staff to do data entry. You can even get down to the minute. We have an ROI builder called the Integration Pays for Itself Roi Calculator. And truly, you put in, we're estimating 8 minutes to enter the data for one order from, say, Amazon over to GP. And then again, we estimated 10 minutes to update inventory every time a new order comes in all of the channels you sell in. So I would suggest then just build a business case. You start with some raw data, and then at the end of the day, it shows that it could actually, after a year, pay for a full-time employee, maybe. So if you set it up in that buying a new tool for GP or a new integration for GP will save the company money in a year, that's probably a good way to start.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. We have a question here for Robert. What is the difference between HighJump's solution and other WMS systems?
Great question. So Collect for GP shares the Dynamics GP database and automates all of its transactions live within that native environment, where a traditional WMS is usually its own separate warehouse management system with its own separate SQL database. You do sometimes have a little more flexibility when going that route, but usually a much greater cost both initially to set up and deploy as well as to maintain moving forward. So this gives us a way to have a streamlined approach, giving you, kind of 80+ % functionality of what a traditional WMS would, with a lot less cost and complexity to that deployment.
The only other question thank you, Robert.
Sure.
Just one more question here, and it's a more general one. It's just asking, can the presenters please elaborate on licensing for their products? So I think it's a good one for everybody, and maybe we could just go back through, starting with John, and sort of just working back through all the presenters one more time. If you wouldn't mind tackling that question on how you handle licensing for these products with GP.
Sure. This is John. So Avatax is licensed based on the number of transactions. Typically, that's defined as the number of times you're posting an invoice to our system, so whenever you complete an order, basically. So we base it on the number of transaction or web services calls to our system when you post a transaction.
Thank you. And Mike?
So ours is a very simple pricing model based on just the volume of invoices and payments, and then also the level of automation for the invoices, whether we're doing PO matching and line level capture, or if we're just doing summary level, it's a little bit less. And then there's no user fees, entity fees, anything like that. It's just invoices and payments. And then also the clients receive rebates back for the card-based payments that we do for them as well.
All right, great. Lindsay, from eBridge.
All right. So for us, it's based on workflow. So any sort of task that you want automated, if you want all orders from Shopify, as soon as they come in to head over to GP, that's one workflow. And so we charge by workflow. That's how it works, and one of the exciting things is we are sort of limitless with the receipts, so you can have as many users as you want. And we don't charge by transaction volume. So if that workflow from Shopify back to GP is hit 1,000 times in a day, we're not charging you every time you make one. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. And Robert Law from HighJump.
So our pricing is really based on two things: the area that we're automating of Dynamics GP and the number of RF devices used within the warehouse or manufacturing environment. We do it that way so that, as an example, if you're just a distributor looking at some basic core functionality, maybe some standard receiving, picking, stock counts, cycle counts. You know, we're not going to charge you then for the modules around manufacturing or some of the more advanced warehouse functions. So it's two components, areas that we're automating of Dynamics GP, and then basically how many RF devices are operating within the warehouse or manufacturing plant.
And Ray.
Hey, Jason. So on the DocStar side, we are similar to some of what we've heard. Primarily, DocStar licensing is user-based, and we have concurrent licensing as well as named user licensing. And the reason for both is you have named user licensing for those that would need to be able to be using the system without ever being denied because they don't have licenses available. And then we have concurrent licensing for those times where you have a pool of, let's say, managers who might be approving an invoice, and they're only really going to be in there for a second or two to approve that invoice. There's no reason to give each seat a license, and instead that would apply with the concurrent user license pool, so that, for example, in an organization of 100 users, we might only need a handful of licenses to be able to facilitate their use of the system. There are also some additional modules, as was described also previously. So we don't charge for modules that you don't make use of. For example, eForms. If you're going to make use of eForms, that's an additional module, but if you don't need it, you don't have to buy that. There are also a couple of other modules like that as well. There's something called Caseworks or PackageWorks, which gives you the ability to manage collections of documents together. So those are the types of things that you would have additional charges for.
All right. Well, I know we're at the top of the hour here. I want to thank the audience for all your questions, and just to extend one more thanks to all of you on the panel here for taking the time to do this today, answer the questions and present. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you, everyone.
All right. With that, we are going to wrap up. We've been recording today's event. We'll be sharing that with you soon. And obviously, don't hesitate to reach out with questions or comments. There's also a survey that will pop up as you close out today. Any feedback you can provide would be greatly appreciated. With that, that wraps up the event. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks. You too, Jason.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.